I remember the dress I had on. I remember everything, and just laid down and was like, okay, like I'm ready to see my baby girls. And you just knew it wasn't good. And so the midwife came in and she said, I'm sorry, there's no heartbeat in either. And she said that we were going to miscarry. And it's been so many years and it still makes me really upset. Oh, gosh. Hi, everyone. It's your host, Samantha Busch on Certified Oversharer. And today we are getting into all things infertility and IVF. For those of you who don't know, my husband Kyle and I tried for almost a decade to complete our family. And we are going to have a guest on today, Sarah, who is on year 9 of trying to have her first child. For those of you who've never battled infertility, it is grueling and frustrating and defeating, and we're going to talk about all those emotions and things that can happen with each cycle. And so with that, let's get into it. I have Darby in studio again today, and we're here to kind of educate and empower all of you either on your journey or getting ready to go through it.
Yeah, this episode is definitely going to be impactful. Is this the girl that you've been DMing since 2021?
Yes. So wild. When I was going through my second miscarriage, unfortunately, I had what was called a blighted ovum. So something I didn't even know could happen.
Yeah, what is that?
So basically, when we did our transfer, and I can tell you the whole story after, but my body was growing an empty sac. So my body thought it was pregnant and the sac was growing, but there was no baby in the sac. And so they were hoping that I would naturally miscarry, but that didn't happen. And so then they give you 2 options. You can either take pills to cause the miscarriage, or you can get a full D&C. And so I slid into Sarah's DMs in 2021 because I didn't know what to do. And she had shared publicly her story. And I was like, okay, let me see what she did. Let me see the pros and cons. I had reached out to other people in the community. And yeah, so I followed her story for a while. And it's crazy. This infertility community is such a community of support and education. And I'm excited to have her on today.
Wow, yeah. I mean, I think that just shows how important these conversations are for somebody else before you went through this to kind of be talking about this topic that was probably taboo, and you were able to reach out to her and be like, I'm so sorry this happened to you. This is happening to me. Where do I go from here? And so how did she kind of help you through that?
Well, what's really interesting, I think that from a doctor's standpoint, it's, okay, here's option A, option B. And they're very, like, I don't want to say nonchalant, but they're like, okay, well, here's the pros and cons, but like you make the decision. And that was really difficult because my decision was neither. I wanted a baby and I didn't want to let go of this because I just kept thinking, okay, but like what if like a baby magically appears in there, you know? And once we got to, it was a little past like 13 weeks, they were like, okay, you really have to do something. Like you're not going to naturally miscarry. And so
so you waited how many weeks since when you found out?
Well, I could give you the whole story because it was, this might be a little long-winded, but okay, so this was round 5. And this was when we had started with a new clinic. We did a new round of egg retrieval and embryo creation. And so they were like, you know what? Let's not use a gestational carrier this time. We think it was your embryos. We think that you can carry because you did carry Braxton before. And so went in Colorado, did the transfer, and lo and behold, got a positive pregnancy test. And then went and did the blood work after the 2-week wait. And they called me and they were like, so you're pregnant, but your numbers are low. And they were like, that's not great, but like, don't be concerned yet. And I was like, okay. So then you go back every 48 hours and it's supposed to double the number. So like if it's 100, it needs to be 200 and so on. Those are low numbers, but you get what I'm saying. And so I went back and my number had not doubled. And they said, okay, well, you need to come in a third time. And the third time my number rose, but it didn't double. And so they said, okay, we think you're having an ectopic pregnancy, which is more like a chemical pregnancy, I believe. So they were kind of preparing me for the worst, but they said you need to come back in and do another blood test. So like I was literally, I will never forget, because I was being tested out here, but I was driving every, couple days down to Mooresville, listening to my Jesus music and just crying and being like, please let my number go up. Please let my number go up. And so the fourth time I went in, they called me back later and they were like, your number more than doubled. And they're like, this is interesting. So I went in for another blood draw, doubled again. And they were like, okay, well, we're going to wait till about like 6 weeks or so. It might be a little too early, but this is good. Maybe we had delayed implantation, which means, they do the transfer and within a certain period of time, like it'll stick to your uterine lining and it starts growing, but they're like, maybe it just didn't stick quick enough. And we're not sure. So then we go in for an ultrasound at a little past 6 weeks, and they were able to see a sac, and they saw what they call like a little fetal pole, which means like it's like the start of the heartbeat and the baby and all that good stuff. And so we were like, oh my gosh, we're pregnant. Like, I can't believe it. And so they're like, okay, but it's still really early and you need to come back in a couple weeks. So we went back a couple weeks later and we're sitting in there, and the ultrasound tech is like, because they do it. So the ultrasound tech, so I don't know if you know this, but when they do an ultrasound that early on, it's not on your belly. It's transvaginal. So she's up there and we see the sac and there's like the heartbeat and all that. And then her face like did something weird. And so instantly I was like, what's wrong?
And are you already kind of looking for those reactions after everything you'd have already been through?
Yeah, you're just like expecting the worst. And like you don't want to, because that's such like a terrible mental game to go into it with. You know what I mean? But like it's just the nature of the beast after like so much letdown. And so she like looks and she looks again, and then she's like, I'm gonna go get the doctor. And so Kyle and I are like, oh no, like what? And so the doctor comes in and they're both, what's a midwife, and she's doing that, and she was like, there's 2. And I was like, wait, two what? We put 1 in, what are you talking about? And I like get teary thinking about it. And she was like, I think it's something crazy, like a 2% chance or something like that your embryo will split and become identical twins.
Wow.
And I was so excited. Like I kept thinking identical twin girls. I kept thinking like matching names, matching outfits. And then I was like, where am I going to put 2 babies? Like I'm not, and I was just like so nervous. But Kyle and I will never forget, like we just sat there and we looked at each other and we were like, it was one of those things like, we're like God's got jokes. Okay. We're going to have twin girls. And Kyle's like sweating bullets. You know what I mean? And we were so excited. And then, they were like, okay, well, it's still like, there's not a lot that we can see at this point. Like you have to come back in a couple weeks. And I mean, I was still on all my meds. I felt absolutely awful. So I was like, yes, that's great when you feel bad, because that means lots of hormones. And then we went in and I was just so excited. I remember the dress I had on. I remember everything, and just laid down and was like, okay, like I'm ready to see my baby girls. And that time she was like, let me get the midwife again. And it wasn't, you just knew it wasn't good. And so the midwife came in and she said, I'm sorry, there's no heartbeat in either. And she said that we were going to miscarry. And it's been so many years and it still makes me really upset. Oh gosh. You think like time passes and you're okay. And so they said, you can stop your medications, all the hormones. And then they said, you will most likely go through a miscarriage. And that wouldn't be my first one. So I knew what was coming this time. And we kept waiting and it wasn't coming. And so they said, okay, well, now you have to do basically like a forced miscarriage. And so that's when they gave me the option of taking either pills or going for surgery. And so I did reach out to a lot of people, Sarah included. And I ended up, after thinking about it long and hard, I didn't want to see it again. I did not want to go through again, like having to bleed and to know that somewhere in there are your kids. Like, it's truly what it is. Like, yes, I know what people say, like, oh, it wasn't that far along and they didn't have this and they didn't have that. But like, those were my babies. And I didn't want to have to see them in the toilet and do that all again. So the Friday before Darlington, which used to be Mother's Day, I went in for a DNC. And it's crazy because like it's all done in like 15 minutes. And then it's just done. And I will never forget, it was Mother's Day, laying on the couch. It was obviously Sunday. It was race day. I went with Kyle and Brexton because I was like, I don't want to be alone. Like, you want to be with your husband during that. And I'm laying on the couch and I'm bleeding from a DNC and a miscarriage, just sitting on the couch. And Brexton, the racetrack, gives you a rose. And Brexton brought me in a rose. And he goes something like, I don't know why you're so sad, but I hope this makes you feel better.
Aww.
And that was it. So
that is such an incredibly hard decision. How did that compare? Like you said, you kind of made the decision based off of your first miscarriage. How did that decision in the second miscarriage, how did you feel the second time versus the first?
So the first, and for people listening, I'll just give you that story. So the first was so unexpected. It was just like never, and I know it's naive to say, but I never thought it was possible. So when you go through IVF and, you know, we had the doctor on, our reproductive endocrinologist, and he had more, like, I wish at the time that I had gone through it, I had known better questions to ask and I had been more mentally prepared. But here, all I see on paper is I'm young. I have genetically high graded embryos and I've carried a baby. Like, on paper, I am top of the class. And so it was right before, everything in my life is based on a race or something in NASCAR. It was right before the Vegas championship banquet. And so we had done our transfer, I want to say it was like Phoenix, and then you went into Homestead. And so we announced right by Thanksgiving that we were pregnant. We did like the pink smoke and Brexton and all the things because everybody knew, because I brought them all on this journey to like take the stigma away from infertility.
Did you feel like you had to tell people?
No, I wanted to.
Okay.
So after Brexton, like that second round, I was like, I know why I went through this. God has given me a platform. I'm going to help alleviate this stress for people who are like, ooh, what's going to happen? And so like, I just felt like it was like my God-given mission. And so literally like did the transfer, got the positive test, numbers are doubling, tripling, announced that we're pregnant. And it's like, that was easy. Like, this is what we were meant to do. And just never once like thought this isn't going to work. Just literally didn't. And that morning I had got up and I worked out, and let me tell you the amount of times that I blamed myself for working out, which, ladies, if you're listening out there, it is not your fault. A workout's not going to do it. Like, walking didn't do it. Eating something wrong didn't do it. Like, it's not your fault, though it's going to feel like it's your fault. So worked out that morning, then got Brexton up, made breakfast, and I was getting ready to go take a shower after Kyle was done with his stuff. And so I had this robe on. And I'm upstairs with Brexton, and we're playing dinosaurs, and I'm sitting on the floor with him, and all of a sudden it just feels like I peed. And I was like, instinctively, like your brain doesn't compute what's happening, but your hand like just instantly goes there. And so I didn't have anything on under my robe. So like I went there and I pulled my hand up, and it was just covered in blood. And Brexton saw it, and I was like, I didn't even think. It was just like a reaction. I would have never done it in front of him if I had known. But like I was just like, oh my gosh, I cut my hand. Like, go get your daddy. And so he went to go get Kyle, and I went to the bathroom, and there was just blood all down my legs, and it's like coming out. And so Kyle comes upstairs, and he is like wholly confused because I'm sitting on the toilet crying, and he is like, how did you cut your hand?
Right.
And I'm like, I didn't cut my hand. Like, I'm bleeding. And he was like, oh my gosh, like, we need to call the doctor. And so we called the doctor, and they were super reassuring. Mm-hmm. They were like, this can happen early on. Like, it's no big deal. Like, or not no big deal, but like, this can happen. It's okay. Like, let's just come in. And so we all get in the car, but before, like, I run to our master bathroom because I'm like, I need to put clothes on, and I'm in a robe. And Kyle takes Brexton and is getting him ready to go. And I still have this picture because I thought maybe I should take a picture of this if the doctors need it, you know? Mm-hmm. And the whole toilet is just filled with like blood and like clots, like stuff. And I was like, this isn't normal. And so I put on a pad, and we get in the car, and Reach is like, our clinic is like 45 minutes from here. And by the time I get there, I have soaked through the pad, through my jeans. I had Kyle give me a sweatshirt. I tied that around. It was like through that. And so I called Reach, and they brought me in through the back door because I was like, I'm covered in blood. And I went to the bathroom, and to this day I can picture the tiles in there and the smell of the Dial soap in there. And I was like going to clean up, and like this like little bloody egg thing like fell out, and it like hit the floor, and it's just like splat. And I was like, oh my God, like that's got to be it. And so like I wrapped it up, and I just remember like coming out of the bathroom, and there was a nurse there, and I like handed her this like tissue, and I was like, I think this is my baby. And they brought me back to the room. I didn't think Kyle could come back with me because Brexton was there, but there happened to be another doctor there, and he saw that they were there, and he was like, hey, I have a fish tank in my office. Like, leave Brexton with me. You're going to need Kyle. So we go back, and now I've like kind of already mentally told myself, like, obviously, like I was for sure in my mind what I handed that nurse was our baby. And so the doctor does like another transvaginal ultrasound, and he's like, okay, well, your cervix is still closed, which is a good thing. And we see something still, though it's very tiny. So we're not sure if you're miscarrying. Like, we're going to have to retest a couple of times. And I was like, okay, like, what do you do with that information? You're like...
Right, because you don't want to get your hopes up, but it sounds like a emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, Kyle was like, we're going to be like cautiously optimistic. Mm-hmm. And we were going to the banquet. Like, it was either that night or the next morning. And so they're like, that's fine. You just have to go for a blood draw at like LabCorp. There's nothing that we can do. Because I was like, am I going to do something if I fly or this? And they're like, no, like what's going to be at this point, it's going to be. So we go to Vegas. The next morning we go and we get labs drawn. And I remember Kyle and I went to breakfast, and like we convinced ourselves over breakfast that like she was going to be our fighter, and this was going to be the story. And like we're like, she's going to be like a pain in the ass teenager scaring us, and we're going to like be able to tell her like, oh, you've done this since day one, before day one. And like we just were like, okay, we're going to be okay. Because then I had stopped bleeding. Sorry, I forgot to say that. So like by the time I left Reach, that was really like the end of the bleeding. And so with the cervix being closed and them still seeing something, I was like, okay, like this has to be okay. Like this is just a scare. So then the next night's the banquet. We wait all day and we're like, okay, hopefully we're going to find out something. Hopefully we're going to find out something. I am now have all my hair done, makeup, Kyle's dressed. I am literally like final touches, and the phone rings and she just was like, I'm sorry. And I was like, nope, you're wrong. And she's like, no, it's like your numbers have dropped. You can stop your medicines. And I was like, no. Like, she's our fighter. Like, I had then convinced myself of this story. And I don't know what happened to me, but I went full denial and completely numb. And I put my dress on and I told Kyle, I was like, they told me that our numbers went down and we're not pregnant, but that's not right. And I was like, let's go down to the red carpet. And I just was like, I refuse. This is not happening. I'm not bleeding and this isn't true. And we went to the red carpet, and because we had announced it, everybody was congratulating us and interviewing us. And I was just like, yep, thank you. Like my brain, it was like weird, but I was just like, yep.
Wow. So, I mean, you had no
I wasn't even like
did you have?
Faking it. I just like in my mind was like
convinced yourself.
Like, you people are wrong. You're wrong. And you're going to call me and you're going to tell me you're wrong, and I'm going to take all these congratulations and I'm going to be so happy and I'm going to get through this because you are wrong. And then we did the red carpet, we did the banquet, we did everything, and we went to bed that night. And at 2 a.m., I sat up in the middle of the night and lost my. I burst into tears. I was throwing stuff. I just was so angry and devastated, and just like, why, God? Like, I thought this is what you wanted me to do. And then a few days later, I naturally miscarried.
Thank you so much for sharing that for everybody listening. I know that story and Sarah's story is going to be so impactful for everybody who has experienced a miscarriage, or is maybe just going through this journey at the beginning. So I think this is going to be a super impactful episode.
Today we have Sarah Shockley on. You guys might know her from her Instagram page, While We Wait. Sarah has battled infertility since 2016, going through 5 egg retrievals, 5 rounds of IVF, and multiple miscarriages. She documented this all on her Instagram feed, and today we are so excited to welcome her here to hear her story from the very beginning. Well, hi. Nice to finally talk to you in person. I went back through our DMs and I'm like, we've literally been DMing since 2020.
I know, I was just thinking about that.
And congratulations. I'm so excited for you. You're due next month, right?
Yes. Thank you so much. It's been a long journey, so we're super excited.
That's to say the very least. So I want to dive right into it because I think everybody out there wants to hear the journey from beginning until now, because you have been through it. For those listening, you have been trying since 2016, correct? Mm-hmm. 5 rounds of IVF, miscarriages, and everything. So I know we have a lot to dive into. So with that, can you take us all the way back to the beginning? How old were you when you and your husband started trying?
Gosh, you know what's so funny is when I was thinking about everything this morning, I literally wrote like a timeline out because there's just like so much. But thinking back to when we got married was July 30th, 2016. I think I just turned 27. So that's when this all began.
And I think so many people think at 27, there's not going to be any issues. You're young and this should just happen so easily. I mean, that's what we thought. We started trying around 26, 27 as well, and just never even gave it a second thought. It didn't run in our family. Did it run in your family at all, infertility?
Not in the slightest. My parents had 10 children together. So I never thought for a split second that this would ever happen to me or us.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I know you have PCOS like I do, and your husband had testicular cancer. So can you walk me through that? So who got their diagnosis first, or just take us back to 2016? You're married, you're 27, life is great. When do you start trying, and what leads up to figuring out that you guys are going to battle infertility?
So basically we started trying right away. I just thought it would happen quickly given like my parents' history and like some of my siblings already had kids. So I just thought it would happen quickly. And of course, like a lot of people, month after month after month, it just wasn't happening. And then I think it was at the year mark, my husband found out he had testicular cancer. So at that point, I mean, that was a lot to go through, but at that point we're like, okay, like this is obviously the reason that it hasn't worked. So that was a quick process from when he like thought that something was wrong to when they did the surgery.
And why did he think something was wrong?
Right, yeah. And a lot of people have asked me this question, and I think it's good to discuss. Mainly, one of his testicles just felt like it was bigger than the other. And I think he said it would just felt different. And it was interesting because he was doing a lot of like biking that summer. So he initially thought like, okay, it's just because of like the bike seat and it's just maybe getting like swollen.
Yes.
He brought it up to me a couple times and I was like, oh, I don't know. And then like we let like a few months go by. And then finally, I think he was like, can you just like feel it? And I did. And right away I was like, this does not feel right. Like
this is not normal. This is more than ice is going to fix.
Yeah, exactly. So then we're like, okay, like let's like get you in. He saw just like regular doctor. They did an ultrasound and then they like sent him off for testing and like a CT and everything. And like, yeah, right away they're like, yeah, you have testicular cancer.
And I mean, is it similar to breast cancer, like different stages? Like where was he at? How are you guys handling this emotionally? And you're going through, well, you're trying to have a baby. Now you have this diagnosis. So like, how are you processing all of this together as a newly married couple?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't like give him a stage necessarily. And I don't know if we even ever asked. But it just like, it happened so quick. Like I said, it was like within a week that he was already having surgery to have the malignant testicle removed. So like we didn't have a ton of time to like think, but we didn't know anything about testicular cancer. Like we didn't know if he was going to die or if we were ever going to be able to have kids again. We just like didn't know what to think at all. So
Now, can I ask a question? It was one testicle that has it, so like they have to remove one or both? And like during that, are you doing fertility preservation? Like what's happening here?
Yeah, so thankfully it was only in one. So he only had to have one removed, and because they did it so quickly, he couldn't like bank any sperm until after that surgery. So
okay.
So he had the one testicle removed, and then they wanted him to heal for a month before starting radiation, which they gave him the option if he wanted to do it or not. They said there could be like some microscopic like cancer still, you know, somewhere in his body to do the radiation, but if he wanted to, which he chose to do. And before starting radiation, they're like, you need to bank your sperm now. So he healed a little bit. He banked his sperm twice, and then he did the radiation.
Wow. And so this is all, you guys have been trying for a year, and then this happens. And now, were you diagnosed with PCOS at this point?
Mm-mm. No, I literally
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I didn't know like anything at that time. So the crazy part too, I'm trying to think. Yeah, okay. So I'm like trying to go back to that time.
I know.
So
I feel the same way. When you've been trying for like a decade, you're like, wait, what year am I in and what happened at this point?
exactly. Um, Between his surgery and his radiation treatment, the radiation doctor did say like after radiation, like you shouldn't try to conceive for a year, like with his sperm. And we're like, wait, what? A year? And then he's like, well, maybe 6 months. I'm like, okay, well, what is it?
You're like, okay, well, you just cut off half a year. So can you give me like a real answer? That seems a little.
Exactly. So then I'm like, well, can we like try using the bank sperm? And he's like, no, that's like literally for an emergency, like later. I'm like, oh, okay. Like I didn't get it at all. But between his surgery and his radiation treatment, I like thought I got my period and I was bleeding a lot for like almost, it was like getting close to like 2 weeks. It was past like a week and I'm like, what is going on? And I just like Googled one night, like bleeding heavy for a long time. And then people were like, oh, you should take a pregnancy test. You might be pregnant, like, and having a miscarriage. And then I did, and it said I was pregnant. And I'm like, really?
Oh. Do you think that was stress related at all? Given like the timeline it fell in?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't, I didn't really think about it to be honest. But by the time, I mean, it was so interesting that it happened right between his surgery and his radiation. I was like, oh wow, like this totally proves to me, like they got the malignant, testicle out. I was like, this totally proves that that's the reason we couldn't get pregnant. Because look at this was the
Right.
first time after 13 months we got pregnant. And then, yeah, I went to like my OBGYN. They did a pregnancy test. And the nurse calls and she's like, congratulations, you're pregnant. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I'm having a miscarriage. She's like, oh, are you bleeding? I'm like, yeah. She's like, is it bright red? I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay. So then I had to just,
Oh,
keep going in and watch the numbers go down. So,
that is heartbreaking.
mhm.
I can't imagine the amount of stress you were under. Like your husband is, having surgery, going through radiation, you're battling a miscarriage, you're already a year into infertility. How is your mental health at this point?
Bad. And it got worse like as the years went on. There were like dips where you'd feel more positive and then really low lows, but during that time I think everything was just happening like so fast too that it was like hard to even keep up with it. So
Yes. Is it, I don't know about you, but like when we've had some issues like that where it just felt like everything was piling on, I almost just go into like autopilot, like robot mode, and I don't even process. It's like you just keep going in order to survive. I feel like that was the mode you were probably in right there.
that describes it perfectly. That's exactly what it felt like.
So you're going through that. Your husband's going through radiation. You're now at the OBGYN. Is this when you finally find out that you have PCOS? Because I have PCOS too, completely undiagnosed for so many years. We did the fun Band-Aid at 15. Here's your birth control. See ya in a couple decades when you can't get pregnant thing. So was it similar for you, or how did they find out, or how did you guys find out you had PCOS?
Yeah, not like yours at all. Like I didn't find out for like maybe 2.5 years after that, after the testicular cancer. So after like Kevin finished his radiation, we waited about 6 months and then just started trying again. And like I said, I was kind of convinced like, okay, this was like the reason. Now that the cancer's out, like we'll let things settle and let's try again. And then we tried for maybe another year and a half. And then
Oh, wow.
finally, nothing happened. And then finally, I'm like, Kevin, I think we need to see a fertility specialist. And of course, I think maybe a lot of guys feel like this, like, oh, I don't know, like, do we need to? Like, let's keep trying. And I'm like, we've tried this long and like, nothing is happening. So my OBGYN then was like, okay, here's a fertility specialist you should go see.
Which to me is kind of crazy. Your OBGYN, now knowing what you and I both know, waited even that long, because I know now they say, what is it? If you're over 35 and you don't get pregnant within 6 months, you should go to a fertility specialist. And if you're under and it's been a year, you should go. And so by that point, I mean, I guess in your mind, you were thinking the first 13 months was because of his testicular cancer, but now it's already been a year and a half again. And I don't know about you, but like, it just feels like such wasted time when you're like, man, I just wish I would have an answer.
Right. Yeah. And that's what it felt like. But then initially, we had been trying for 13 months and it happened at 13 months. Like, and it was a miscarriage right away. But I was like,
right.
Okay, like maybe we're not. And then after the testicular cancer, then, having to wait to try again and then just kind of waiting. And then it's like, yeah, like something's wrong here. So at that point.
And how is your marriage during this? Like, I know it gets hard. It gets grueling. I always said like sex turned into a job at some point because you're not doing it because it's like passionate and spontaneous. You're like, here, this stupid stick is giving me a smiley face, so I'm ovulating. Like, and it's just trying. And I don't know about you guys, but like, it was like, okay, well, I read on Google, we have to try this position and we can't do this. And afterwards we have to do this. And it became so clinical. And I felt like that got really difficult for us. How was that for you?
Same. Absolutely
Yeah.
same. It was not fun, like, anymore at all. And of course people are like, oh, trying's the fun part and all the things.
Yes.
It's like, no, it's really not. After this long, it's
yeah. You're like, the fun's gone. And then I remember people were like, oh, you should like dress up and do toys and role play. And I'm like, we freaking have sex every single day, like just trying to keep as much sperm up there as humanly possible. Like, I am not going to be like a French maid on top of this. Like, I am worn out. I'm upset. Like, this is no longer fun for anybody. And I remember that's how Kyle got too. I was like, we both looked at each other and were like, because my ovulation with PCOS. So I'm sorry if I said that wrong. At 15, they didn't diagnose me at PCOS. They just thought my periods were weird. So they put me on birth control for almost 2 decades. So I never knew anything was wrong. But I go back to that and we both looked at each other and we're like, okay, we got to have sex again. Are you ready? It was like, here we go. Day number whatever in a row. Because my ovulation kits always told me I was ovulating. So I'm like, well, I'm not smart enough to figure this out. Let's just do it every day. That'll solve the problem, which it did not, obviously.
Yes. Mine always told me I was ovulating too. So I'm like, I don't get it. But come to find out later, even it says on the ovulation kits, like, may not work for people with PCOS. Because with PCOS.
Stop it.
Yes. Read the back. I read the back of like a main brand one and it said that. Because with PCOS, apparently you have like multiple LH surges during your cycle. So
yes.
like when I was like, it always says I'm ovulating and I'm doing
yes.
it. Happening. Yeah. So.
Wow, the fine print. Should have read that.
Yeah, I found that out like maybe a couple years ago, but I wasn't using ovulation tests anymore by that point because we were doing IVF and everything, but. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you're at the fertility clinic now. You're, what is this, 3.5 years into trying?
Yes, it was like towards the end of 2019 then by the time we finally got to the fertility doctor.
Oh, perfect. Right when COVID's about to happen. That'll be great. Yeah, perfect. So you go there and what happens? You're at the fertility clinic. I know you probably felt like I did. You're like, okay, I'm going to get an answer. We're moving forward.
We did the testing. I did my testing. Kevin did his. Surprisingly, his sperm analysis was pretty good. I mean, there were a couple things that were like a little bit low and like he could just take vitamins for it. Most likely it would have been normal.
Wow.
I know. That's why I'm like, really? Okay, great. What are my test results like then? And for me, like most things were normal. I forgot what it's called when they're looking for the follicles. Is it AMH?
AMH, LS. I don't know. There's so many acronyms.
figure it out. It might be AMH or
I think it's AMH.
Okay.
I'm so glad you say that, because as somebody who I've followed in the fertility space for forever, sometimes I feel really like dumb when I don't know everyone, and I'm like Googling like, what is this acronym? And I'm like, I should know this a decade in, but I'm like you. I'm like, this is just too much.
There's so many, and now like I'm like past like all the egg retrieval parts, so it's like I haven't had to think about it for a while. But I had a lot of follicles, it said, and that is like indicative or could be of somebody with PCOS. But like almost everything else was normal. My uterus was normal. Like all my other blood tests were good. So that's when the first time I even heard PCOS. And she's like, I think you have PCOS. It wasn't like for sure, like you have PCOS and this is the type of PCOS you have. It's like, yeah, it looks like you have PCOS. So then I was like, well, what is that? And I didn't really know much about it.
I was the exact same. Like, I literally feel like we went to the same appointment. Same thing. They were like, I think you have PCOS. And I'm like, what is that? Am I dying? Like, what? Can you explain this? And it's such this huge blanket term. And then my favorite's when they're like, you don't really have most of what like a typical PCOS looks like, but you have that. I'm like, oh, okay. That's not helpful at all, but thank you for that. Yeah. Okay. So we had the same appointment. So you have PCOS. Your husband's numbers are good though, which is super exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So did they tell you right to IUI or IVF?
They said we could choose, and like I'm under his insurance. He's a teacher. So we're like, people like assume teachers have such great insurance, but they don't cover any like fertility type treatment. So we're like, okay, I guess we'll start with an IUI because it's a lot cheaper than IVF. So
1,000%. It's what, about 5,000 compared to 20,000?
Yeah, like a huge difference. So we did one IUI, and I remember like Kevin's sperm count wasn't like totally great at that one, and I remember the doctor was like, all right, well, for the next one, let's get him on these vitamins to get it up. And I'm like, literally, we're still in the office. I'm like, the next one, you're already saying this one's not going to work? Like, I had no idea.
That's awful. Wait, I hate that for you. You're like, what a buzzkill.
Yeah. I was just like, oh, okay. And yeah, that one didn't work. And then we did another one right away the next month, and that one didn't work either. So
then you go to IVF. Is that what they suggested?
They said like I could do more IUIs if I wanted to, but she's like, I don't really recommend like doing more than 3. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, like if it's not working. But I was going to say, so with our foundation, we actually end up funding a lot of teachers. So I know exactly what you're talking about, that most teachers' insurances do not cover IVF. So now, on top of experiencing infertility, are you guys having these financial conversations knowing what lies ahead?
Yes. And that's where, like, that's why we did the IUIs initially, just hoping that, like, they would work. And my husband's kind of on the cheap side. So I'm like, okay, if I bring up how much IVF is, because like some of the stuff he doesn't look into as much as I do, but I knew like how expensive IVF was going to be. And I'm like, okay, let's like see. I'm too scared to bring up the pricing to him because he's going to go nuts. But thankfully, I think it was at that time, like I started my Instagram account, which was super helpful to share, like just documenting my journey and just sharing. And that helped mentally a lot too, just being able to share my feelings. But I started that probably like right when we started seeing a fertility specialist, and they kind of like saw like my posts and everything. And they actually brought the idea up to me, like, hey, if you do like some posts for us, or you could be kind of like almost like a brand ambassador, we could give you discounts on some procedures.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, we got super lucky on that. And if that didn't happen, we would never have been able to do IVF.
Let's be honest. Some of my best stories start with, so I had a drink, and spiral from there. which is exactly why Big Rack Spirits feels like the unofficial sponsor of every unfiltered moment on this podcast. Whether it's the East Coast Cooler, Trailblazing Tangerine, or Rosie's Pink Lemonade, they make flavored vodka that goes down easier than your latest situationship. It's all natural, super smooth, and honestly, dangerous in the best way. No fake flavors, no mixers needed. Just pour, sip, and overshare. And maybe cry, obnoxiously laugh, definitely regret saying it all out loud. But hey, at least it was entertaining. Oh, and they're not just out here making delicious chaos in a bottle. Big Rack gives back too. Military charities, breast cancer foundations, real impact with every pour. So if you're going to tell on yourself, you might as well do it with a drink that's worth it. Must be 21 or older. Please drink responsibly. To say, I had no idea. I thought, because I knew you'd started an IUI journal for other people to help them with all that. And so, wow, that's kind of like a God thing. Like everything did fall in place with you, like starting social, the clinic, the journal. So, because I thought always for a long time, you were really like a very strong supporter of like the infertility community. You offered a lot of good advice. I mean, we'll get into it, but I DM'd you in 2020 asking when we had that miscarriage talk about what do you do with a blighted ovum. So that's so great that they saw that potential like right away.
Yeah, and I mean, like other things funded it too. Like I made the IUI journals and like luckily for us too, my husband was smart at the time when we got married. We bought like a side-by-side duplex townhouse and we still live in it today. It's been like 10 years. He's like, oh yeah, we'll move out after 5 years, but we still live here. So we don't have like a mortgage to pay at all because our renters pay that. So like that, we do things like that help so much financially.
That's really smart.
Yeah. And at the time I was like, no, I want like a single family house. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, that was like the smartest thing he ever talked me into. But just things like that.
Good job, hubby. You had it planned.
Things like that helped a lot. But like the biggest one was my fertility clinic giving us some discounts on things. So for us, like our insurance wouldn't pay anything for IVF, anything for IUI, no medications. They might have paid like a couple like diagnostic type appointments, but that's it. Mm-hmm. So even with like our fertility clinic giving us a discount on some of the procedures, which helped a ton because we would have never been able to do it otherwise. We still had a lot to pay on our end.
It's for... Yeah, for people listening, it's at least $20,000 around, and that's not covering your medications. That's not covering a lot of your other visits. I mean, anesthesia, you name it. It racks up so quickly, and it's infuriating. Like that's one thing I always talk about. Like it's bizarre to me that like we will cover Viagra and other medications, but we're not gonna cover anything for infertility. But I could do a whole rant on that. So okay. You're at the clinic, you're going through IVF, you're in round 1. First, you're going through your egg retrieval. How does it go? Because typically us with PCOS, we make a lot of eggs.
Yes, I made a ton of eggs, tons. And I was like,
yes.
Like that round, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't need this many kids. Like I got probably like 30 something eggs. And then like, of course, as the numbers kept going, it just kept trickling off and trickling off. And at the end of that first egg retrieval, we got 2 blastocysts, and we did do like PGT testing on them. Mm-hmm. And one was abnormal and one was a low-level mosaic embryo. And at that time, my doctor recommended not transferring either of them.
Say, what are you feeling then? Like you thought this was your answer. You got so many eggs. Like tell me about those emotions.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% thought it was going to work right away. Like, everything fell into place so perfectly. And like I said, once I saw how many eggs we got initially, I was like, okay, like, wow, we're going to have, like, a lot of options. And that wasn't the case at all. And when they told me we couldn't use any of them, I was just, like, gutted. Like, I couldn't believe it. Because you see other people who do IVF, and they do 1 egg retrieval and they have all these embryos they can use and they get pregnant, some on the first like transfer. And I was just like, oh, okay, like hopefully that's how ours goes. No, not at all. And I remember after that first egg retrieval, I was like so sick. I think I had Yeah, like I was not doing well. I remember I was throwing up into the toilet and I was like, I am never doing this again. Never am I doing this again. And that was before I found out the results. And I'm like, oh.
You're like, I have to do this again. Did you have that like hyperstigmentation? Was that what it was?
Yeah, yeah. I think it was kind of mild, and I told them, and they like gave me some medication to like help it kind of go down. And then every egg retrieval after that, like we were kind of prepared for it. But after every egg retrieval, I never threw up again, which was nice. But I always just felt kind of like sick, like oh my gosh, like I don't want to do this again.
How many egg retrievals did you have to do?
5.
That's what I thought. I was like 5. So 5 just to start IVF. So what's going on? How are you? How is your body? How is your mental state? So take me quickly through the 5. Is it the same as like the first one? You're getting all these eggs and then they're getting tested and they're not able to transfer?
Yeah, so we did do some transfers like in between some of the egg retrievals. So we did another egg retrieval a few months after the first one. And I think like every single time my doctor changed up my dose or we did different protocols. So we didn't do the same thing every time because we were always trying to like, see what we could do to change the results. But pretty much every time we got 1 to 2 embryos. And so I'm trying to think, the second egg retrieval, we only got 1 blastocyst and it was a normal embryo, thankfully. And I was like, okay, this is it. Like, this is our one shot here. And we transferred him and he didn't implant at all. And I was just, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I just really thought it was going to work. We got our one and this is it. And it didn't work. And then
I'm so sorry. I know what that feels like. Like you put so much hope into that one embryo and you go through your head of, okay, well, it had to be this that last time. It had to be this. And like, this is finally my shot. And then when you get that call from during the 2-week wait, did you test?
No, that first one I don't think I did because I was just like, I want it to be like exciting when they call. Me and Kevin are going to listen and we're going to be like, oh my gosh, it worked. And I didn't test.
Do you remember that phone call? Because I remember exactly where I was during mine. Do you remember?
Yeah, for sure. And you can tell like right away, just the tone in their voice,
Yep.
like it's not good. I think we were just at home and yeah, we just were so sad.
It's like gutting because on paper and statistically, it should work. And I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah, and it is. And my like lining has always been good. Like going into the transfer, everything looked amazing. I'm like, this is gonna work, and it didn't.
So how do you prepare mentally and physically to move forward from that?
Honestly, it's kind of like you said, where you're just like, it's like tunnel vision. You're just like, go, go, go. And that's a good thing and a bad thing because eventually it catches up with you. But that's how I was. Like, you feel sad, you grieve, and then you're like, okay, get that out. Let's keep going because we want to have a kid. And we did the next egg retrieval, the next egg retrieval, the next egg retrieval. And we got like 2 embryos from each of those next ones.
Were you waiting to implant or were you implanting in between again?
Yeah, when we did our third one, we got 2 blastocysts. One was normal and one was undetermined. Apparently they didn't get like enough DNA to test it. So my doctor's like, well, it's up to you. Like, I'm willing to transfer them both, like if you're okay with it. And I'm like, yeah, like let's do that.
Yeah, put them both in. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, so we did. And for the first time, I'm trying to think, I think I might have tested that one. I think I tested, and I was just going to keep it a secret from Kevin, but I couldn't. I was like, so that one we knew was positive. And of course, in your mind, you're like, oh my gosh, I went through all of this, and now it's finally our time. And when we went into that first ultrasound, before that, like the betas were kind of low compared to what I would see other people's. I was like, okay, well, I haven't made it this far. Maybe mine are just kind of low. But when we went into that first ultrasound, one, we were so excited. We had no idea we were going to see anything bad.
What week are you at this point?
I'm trying to think when they do the first one. They probably did it around like almost 6 weeks, maybe.
Okay, so you go in full of excitement. You're 6 weeks in, first pregnancy positive test that you've seen since the miscarriage, right? In between when he was having his surgery and radiation. So you go in and take us through that.
And now I'm thinking back, I think Kevin couldn't get off work or something. So I just went in alone and I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so exciting because now I'm going to get to tell him, like, if we're having one baby or two babies, like, because we transferred too. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to tell him. And I get there and same thing, you can tell right away when it's bad news. Like, she's doing the ultrasound and then finally I look over at the screen and I just see a circle and it's like all black. Like, there is nothing in it. And I was like, I know this isn't good. Like, because I've seen so many people post and like,
right
where I was, like, we should have saw something in there. And she's like, let me have the doctor come in. And even the doctor came in and was looking. I'm like, oh my gosh. And there was just nothing. And they're like, okay, like, giving me a little hope. Maybe it's too early, but like, you could tell, like, it wasn't good. And then, like, every time I went back, there was just nothing. And they're like, it's a blighted ovum, which it's like the sac is growing, but there's like no baby growing in it. So
I remember that's when I first reached out to you, was about a blighted ovum, because I had never in my life heard that term except from you. And you're like, basically, for those listening out there who don't know what it is, your body, for all intents and purposes, thinks it's pregnant and is still having all the pregnancy hormones and doing all the things, and you're growing this sac, but there's no baby inside of it. So from there, they give us the option I remember they told me you'll either miscarry naturally, you have to take pills, or do a DNC. Did they do the same for you?
Yeah, they said the same thing for me, and they said, like, since it was still early, like, the pills would probably be a good option. And I was like, okay, let's just try that. So that was so rough too. Picking, oh my gosh, like, this is bringing me back, but like, just going to the pharmacy to pick up those pills. Like, she called me to like the other window because, like, obviously the pills were for something that I should know about. And she's like, you know, these are for an abortion, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm literally going to burst into tears any second here. And now I'm like, yeah, I have a blighted ovum and I am miscarrying. So, and she's like, oh, I'm sorry. And like, literally, I just like took the pills and like was rushing out of the pharmacy because I was crying. And I was like in my car crying. And then I drove home and I told Kevin, and then he came out to the car and we cried together, and we're just like, it was so rough. But I brought the pills to my doctor like the next day, and she put them up, you know, next to my cervix, and then I went home and like everything came out.
Oh, I'm just you can remember, for anybody who's gone through a miscarriage, you know exactly like those moments, what you're wearing, what's around, everything. It like sticks with you for the rest of your life. Do you think you made the right decision taking the pills over the DNC? Because I ended up, after talking to you, doing the opposite.
Yeah, I think so, because I mean they did ultrasounds after that too to confirm like everything was out of there. So if everything didn't come out, I would have had to do a DNC. So for me, it worked fine. So if obviously if it didn't go well, I was going to have to go the alternative route. But the other thing too, my doctor like asked, she's like, well, do you want to try to collect like the remnants and send it in for testing? Because if you do PGT testing, the company will test to see if there was anything wrong with it. Like if they're, you know, what they told you was incorrect. And I did choose to do that. Yeah. So I literally had to collect like what should have been our baby out of the toilet and put it in a cup and bring it to the fertility clinic. And by the time they did the testing, it came back that it was only my DNA in the sample. They couldn't find any baby DNA. So they couldn't give me an answer like, was there actually something wrong with the embryo or what happened? So that was tough.
It is not only tough, it is such a traumatic thing to go through. Like, I don't even know how to explain it to people because my first miscarriage was a natural miscarriage, but I remember being there and, as you said, like collecting this stuff coming out of me because it's like these huge clots and all these things and different. I wasn't sending mine into genetic test. In my head was like, I have to find her. Like in my head, I was going to be able to find her in this mess and do like this burial. And it was like, I look back now and I just remember the blood and like sitting there and like, you're literally picking up stuff that was just inside of you, like hoping that it's your baby. And it's so traumatic. And I try to tell people time does help heal a miscarriage, but like that is a part of you that is forever changed because it is such a trauma.
Yeah, and it's the most traumatic thing ever.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, and this is one thing about, and again, I can get on a soapbox, whether it's our educational system or whatever it is, like we teach young girls about trying not to get pregnant, but like we don't prepare them for this part of their potential fertility journey and how you come back from the emotions of that. And it's traumatizing for a while. And I have to say thank you because I was able to reach out to you and other people in the community that were able to just give me these like honest answers and support at a time like that. And I can sit here and talk to you right now about like, you know, collecting parts of clots after a miscarriage. And you and I find that's very normal to talk about, where other people are like, what in the world? And so I love that we're having this conversation because there's so many people that are going to go through this silently.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And talking about it is like, I can't believe like I had to go through that. And I had to go through it again, like 2 transfers later. It was the same exact scenario. It was sick deja vu. I couldn't believe I was going through it again.
Oh, so that's round what, 4?
Yeah, so we did another we did our 3rd transfer after the blighted ovum. Didn't implant again. So I was just like, what the heck? We transferred 1 embryo, didn't implant, and then we went to our 4th transfer. After I did egg retrievals 4 and 5, it was like nuts. Oh. My doctor actually, thankfully, looking back at my situation now and where I'm at, thankfully, my doctor talked me into doing that 5th egg retrieval because if not, we would not be pregnant right now. So I did my 4th egg retrieval. We got 2 embryos and both were normal. I was like, oh, like whatever we did that round, that was like almost our best round. And then I was like recovering a couple days after the egg retrieval, and she brought up the option to me. You know, there's this kind of newer thing we're trying where it's called duo-stim, where you do 2 egg retrievals in 1 menstrual cycle. And I was like,
I've never heard of that.
And if I ever had to do an egg retrieval again, I would do it this way. I am never doing an egg retrieval again. I'm done. But if I ever had to, I would do it this way. So we did the regular one in the follicular phase like they normally do. And then I rested for a few days. If she would have asked me literally 1 day sooner when I was like so sick, I would have said, not a chance. But luckily she asked me 1 day later and I was like, you know what? I still have some medications left. They were going to give me another discount on this one because we did them so close and like to post about it and everything. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, let's do it. And they do the 2nd egg retrieval in the luteal phase. So it's like 2 different batches of eggs within like the same menstrual cycle. And luckily, so that 5th egg retrieval, we'll call it, we got 2 blasts again. One was normal, and then the other one was like a mosaic again. And the baby we're pregnant with right now is the normal embryo from that 5th egg retrieval. So I'm just like,
wow.
thank you to my doctor for talking me into it. And like I said, if she would have asked me like a day sooner, I would have said no. So I'm just like, that was so good that it worked out like that.
So you had then, at that point, from that stem, you had 3 embryos. So did you do 2 and then 1, or 1 and then 2, or all 3 at once? How did that work?
Yeah, so after our third transfer, when we transferred 1 and it didn't implant at all, we went into our 4th transfer. We transferred 2 embryos. And I'm pretty sure they were both. I think, you know what I did? I transferred 2 embryos. I transferred the original mosaic embryo we got from our first round, because by this point more research had come out on like mosaic embryos and that they can still, turn into normal healthy babies. So we transferred that embryo and then a normal embryo. And like I said, sick twist of deja vu, it was a blighted ovum again. And I had to collect the remnants out of the toilet again. We sent it in, and same thing. They only found my DNA in the samples, so they couldn't give us an answer as to why it didn't work.
That is heartbreaking. So how are you mentally continuing on? You have 1 embryo left or 2 at this point?
At this point, we had 1 normal embryo and 1 mosaic embryo. So we still had like 2 more chances.
So how are you in your marriage? How are you mentally? How are you moving forward? Because I don't think what people understand is this isn't back to back to back. This is occurring over months, years, and it's the constant, like, we wouldn't even have time to get into what this is doing with your other relationships around you, and it's all consuming and it's so difficult. So take me to where you're at mentally as you're getting ready for this 5th round.
Yeah, so it like just all relationships around me, it's like suffered in some part. Like relationships with my siblings, coworkers, friends. And thankfully, like the relationship with my husband was pretty good through this whole thing. And I know that's not the case for a lot of people, but he is just so like supportive, and he understands that he's not going to feel like every single thing that I feel. So he kind of was good about that, but it's still a thing where you feel alone even though you're not alone. But at some point during this, probably trying to think back, I did finally start seeing a counselor because I needed to. It was, my mental health was so bad that like I had to reach out for help.
I love that you talk about that. I think that a lot of people are afraid to do that, and it is so necessary during this journey. I read in a study one time that women that go through infertility experience the same level of stress as a woman going through cancer, which is just wild. That I don't think people realize just what a toll it takes on you. So with that, you're getting ready for your 5th transfer. You've had so much heartache, so much disappointment. How are you approaching this 5th round?
So between every round, I did like more and more testing, because I'm like, okay, like I want to make sure I know everything, try everything before going into the next transfer, because what if it was some little tiny fix that I could have done that would have helped it work? So I never did a laparoscopy before, and I did a test where they could test my endometrial lining to see like if I had endometriosis, and it was negative. But I was like, you know what? Some people said like, because I would always research online, some people said they got negative with that, but then they did a laparoscopy and they actually did have endometriosis. And I was like, let's just do it, because I want to make sure going into this next round, like I feel like I did everything I could. And then I don't have to think back and be like, why didn't I do that? Or why didn't I do that? So as I did the laparoscopy, and she did not find endometriosis, but when I was looking at like my chart notes, it said I had a boggy uterus. And I was like, what's a boggy uterus? Like I never heard of that before. And when I looked it up, it said it's basically kind of like a fluffy uterus that doesn't have like much like muscle tone. Like it doesn't look like a normal one or something. And when I looked it up, it said either you like just gave birth recently, like a full-term baby, or you have adenomyosis, which is endometriosis within the uterine wall. So then I asked my doctor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. I was like, wait, what? I asked my fertility doctor, and then I asked my OBGYN who did the surgery. And both of them are like we've never seen anything that would indicate you have adenomyosis, but there's a chance you have it just based on how your uterus looked. So that's when my fertility doctor suggested doing 2 months of Lupron depot suppression, which is like what a lot of people with endometriosis will do. And it just like suppresses everything before going into the next transfer. So
are you slightly annoyed or frustrated at this point? I mean, props to you for digging through it and being an advocate for yourself. But after this long, are you kind of a little frustrated that you brought that to the table?
I mean, like, I see what you're saying. And I was initially, I'm just like, how did this never get caught? And like they said, like it was just never on any of my scans or like anything that they could see that maybe this was there. And I don't think anyone actually like diagnosed me with adenomyosis. I just think there's like a decent possibility I might have it. So
that's crazy. Good thing you advocated for yourself.
Which I do a lot, and that's, I don't know, I think I have some trust issues, so I'm like, from like childhood and everything, I'm just like, it's just like, sometimes I feel like it's like on me, like I need to figure it out, I need to like ask the questions, and otherwise I don't think it's ever gonna work. But right when I was gearing up for the 5th transfer, like I was doing a lot of like probably, I forgot to mention, and maybe you knew this, but like before our 4th transfer, I saw a reproductive immunologist and had like tons of testing done. Tons. Like so much blood work. I think I had 31 vials of blood taken. And my husband was complaining about the 4 vials of blood he had to have taken. But
31, that is nuts.
It was excessive, but I mean, I learned some things, like I had like a clotting disorder too. So like all these things I was like, you know, we were getting in place to gear up for our 5th transfer. And in 2024, we got pregnant naturally again for like the first time or the second time in a 7-year period. And we were like,
oh my gosh,
this is it. Like, look at it. It eventually happened. And we were so excited. I got my fertility doctor on board. She's like, yeah, let's bring you in for an ultrasound. And there was a baby in there. But as the ultrasounds went on, he just was not growing. And yeah, for a 3rd time, I did the pills because he stopped growing. It was obvious that like I was going to have a miscarriage.
Yeah.
3rd time I did the pills and I collected my baby out of the toilet. And this time, like it was a natural pregnancy. So the PGT testing, they weren't going to pay for me to have it tested. But I'm like, I am paying. I'm having this tested. I'm going to find out what happened. And I think it was like $800. I don't even know if I told my husband because I said he's kind of cheap and he would have been like, we don't need to do that. But I sent it in, and for the first time ever, they were able to tell me that he had a chromosome like abnormality. I think it was like missing chromosome 16. So that I was like, finally, I got an answer as to why this one didn't work. So even though it was so traumatic, again, I was so happy that I finally felt like, okay, like I know why this one didn't work for sure. And that was why. So then after that,
wow.
We went into the transfer. Yeah.
Wow. So, okay, now you go to number 5 after all of this, and you implant 1 or 2?
1, yeah. Because my husband he's like, let's just do 2. I'm like, Kevin, I can't. I need to know that I have 2 chances left here. Like, we have 2 chances left because I just want to have 2 chances left because I'm not doing any more egg retrievals. This is it. We have our 1 normal embryo that we can transfer, and we have our 1 mosaic embryo that we can transfer, and then that's it. This door is like closed. So we just transferred the 1 normal, and it's interesting with all of our embryos. A lot of people get embryos that they call day 5 embryos, like they got to the blastocyst stage at day 5.
Yep.
All of our embryos were day 6s and day 7s. So like they didn't like become a blastocyst until later. And a lot of fertility clinics, not a lot, maybe more aren't doing it, but some of them will discard day 7, or they don't even wait till day 7. They'll discard, like, so a lot of them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and this is all stuff I've learned too. So a lot of them, I mean, all of them will watch to day 5. Some will watch to day 6, and then very few will watch to day 7. So I'm like, thank God my fertility clinic watched to day 7 because we wouldn't have been able to use this embryo.
Right, you think that would be like a standard protocol. It's only 2 more days.
I know. I don't know why, but apparently some don't watch until day 7, and I'm just so thankful that our fertility clinic did. Because if they only watched till day 5, we wouldn't have gotten a single embryo, not one. All of ours were day 6 and day 7.
Wow. So they implant your 1, day 7, round 5,
yep.
And
I was like, okay, for this one, I'm not going to cast. But I saw people online, they're like, what made it easier was when I went in for the blood test, I went home and took a pregnancy test just so I could prepare myself for that phone call.
Right.
And I was like, that's not a bad idea. I think I'm going to do it that way. So I didn't test at all. And then when I did the blood test, I came home and I did the pregnancy test. And to my surprise, it was positive. So many people are like, why were you so surprised it was positive? I'm like, I don't know. I had so much anxiety around this, and we've had so much bad luck that I just couldn't believe it was positive. And I mean, the scary thing is after that is going in for, meeting all the betas. And my betas were much better this time. They were higher. And I was like, okay.
I remember that from your Instagram.
Yeah, because with our 2 blighted ovums, like the betas were kind of low. They did like double each time, but they were just lower. And then with this one, it was higher. And I was like, okay, like that's giving me some like faith that maybe.
Reassurance, yeah.
Yeah, and then going in for that first ultrasound, I literally was like shaking. Like I can feel how anxious I am. Like it's coming back because every single time that we have gone in for an ultrasound, every single one has been bad news. So I was just like, all right, like, let's see what happens here. And we went in and there was a baby in there, but like, I've never seen it before. And we were just could not believe it.
Oh, that's so exciting. And like, so you go through that first ultrasound and you're so excited. Now, are you still anxious? Or like currently right now, you're almost 8 months. Are you past that phase? Because I know, like I was just always waiting for for the rug to get pulled out from under me after all of that trauma. Are you past that, or like at what week did you finally say like, okay, we are actually having our baby?
I literally had so much anxiety like the whole time until I feel like maybe the 20-week mark. Like then it just started slowly like trickling off, or I wasn't so anxious anymore. And I'm like, okay, like, I don't know. I think this is going to happen. Like even me and Kevin, like when we would talk, like he would say like just talk about the baby, and it would give me so much anxiety because I'm like I don't want us to get too excited here, about things. So that makes me sad even thinking back to it, that we couldn't be so excited just because of everything that happened. But now at this point,
I think a lot of people face that.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you guys. So what's the actual due date?
August 10th, but because I'm on a blood thinner, they want to induce a week early. So as of now, it's probably going to be like August 3rd, August 4th.
So we are like 1 month out.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like,
that is
Can't believe it.
That I'm so happy for you. I mean, like I said, and how we started the show, I followed you for years. You helped me at some of the darkest moments. And I know that we all were there, like cheerleading, like we all followed your story, you know, because you had been through so much. And not only did you endure so much, but you helped so many people in the community as you were going through it. So I just want to ask you one question before we close. Okay. For anybody out there listening who's been through multiple cycles, maybe it's been failed cycles, miscarriages, whatever that looks like, what do you want them to know? How do you support them to keep going? Like, what are your words to them as they are just maybe listening to this in their car crying, sitting on the bathroom floor holding a negative pregnancy test? What are you saying to those women?
You know, that's kind of a hard question because, like, I feel like at each stage, like, I felt differently about this. But the one thing that's always stuck, like, I hate when people would say to me, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Like, no, you do not know that this is ever gonna happen. So I never want to give people, like, false hope because I hated when people gave that to me. But all I can say is, one, definitely seek out a counselor of some sort. That helped me so much. But do a lot of research. You have to be your own advocate. Ask questions. Luckily, my fertility doctor was like always up on like new things that we could try, and I was always willing to do that. But some fertility doctors might not be, so you might have to bring it up to them first. And like we talked about that tunnel vision, like just go, 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 that helps for so long, but eventually it will catch up to you. So be aware mentally if your mental health is suffering, talk to somebody. I like to write poems and journal a lot. And like I said, my Instagram, just being able to share our journey and steps and my feelings helped me so much.
I love that. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I'm so happy after this many years we finally get to talk, and I am nothing but thrilled for you. I can't wait to see all the photos. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
After listening to Sarah's story, and so many parts of it mirror my own story, I just really want to take a moment to talk to all of you women out there battling infertility. I know it can feel lonely and isolating and defeating, but I want you to know that we're here for you. We're going to continue on Certified Oversharer to share these stories to help you guys not only find that sense of community, but maybe it'll spark something that you can be your own advocate to take to your doctor. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If this episode hit home for you, please be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss any of these great conversations. And come find us on all social media channels at Cert Oversharer, where we can continue to have these oversharing conversations.